It's Nintendo Today, where we look at what launched in Nintendo's history and take a look at some classified information like we would find in Nintendo Power. Every morning, I post what's released across my socials and in my Discord. Drop your favorite memories or stories, and I'll read some of them right here on the show. Today in Nintendo history. Today we're looking back at Super Mario Bros. 3, a 1988 platform game developed and published by Nintendo for the Nintendo Entertainment System, also known as the NES. It was released in Japan on October 23rd, 1998, in North America on February 12th, 1990, and in Europe on August 29th, 1991. The game was developed by Nintendo Entertainment Analyst and Development, led by Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka. Players controlled brothers Mario and Luigi, who must save Princess Toadstool and the rulers of 7 different kingdoms from the villain Bowser. As in previous Super Mario games, players defeat enemies by stomping on them or using items that bestow magical powers. New abilities were also introduced, including flight and sliding down slopes. Super Mario Bros. 3 also introduced elements that would become series staples, such as Bowser's Children, the Koopalings, and a world map that allowed players to transition between levels. The game was praised for its challenging gameplay and is regarded as one of the greatest NES games, and even one of the greatest video games ever. It's the third best-selling NES game with more than 17 million copies sold worldwide. The success of Super Mario Bros. 3 even inspired an animated television series produced by DiC Entertainment. Over the years, the game has been remade and released several times. For the Super Nintendo, over the years, the game has been remade and re-released several times. For the Super NES, as part of Super Mario All-Stars in 1993, for the Game Boy Advance, as Super Mario Advance 4 Super Mario Bros. 3 in 2003, and on the Virtual Console for Wii U and 3DS. It was also included on the NES Classic, and in 2018, it was released on Nintendo Switch Online. Alright, let's get into the gameplay, because Super Mario Bros. 3 didn't just continue the series, it evolved it. This is a two-dimensional side-scrolling platformer, and it shares a lot of DNA with earlier titles like Super Mario Bros., The Lost Levels, and Super Mario Bros. 2, but it brings in a ton of new mechanics that made it stand out. In addition to running and jumping, players can now slide down slopes, pick up and throw certain items, and climb vines freely. New power-ups also made their debut, like the Super Leaf and the Tanuki suit, both giving Mario the ability to fly and float. The game's world spans 8 kingdoms, each divided into multiple levels with its own unique look and feel. You start in a grass-covered world, then move into the desert-themed desert land known as Desert Hill in the Japanese and North American versions. And then there's Giant Land, where everything, enemies, blocks, and obstacles are twice the normal size. It's one of the most memorable worlds in the entire game. Players move through the game using 2 main screens, the overworld map and the course screen. The overworld map gives a top-down view of the current kingdom, with paths that connect action panels, fortresses, and other icons. Each path leads to a new course or minigame, and players can even take different routes to reach the final castle. Once inside a level, gameplay shifts back to the traditional side view, where you'll dash, jump, fly, swim, and take down enemies to reach the goal. Players begin with a set number of lives and can earn more by collecting the green spotted 1-up mushrooms. Some are hidden in bricks, and every 100 coins is an extra life. If Mario Luigi takes damage while small, falls into lava, or a bottomless pit, or runs out of time, that's a lost life. If all lives are lost, the game ends, but you can continue from the beginning of the world you are in by choosing Continue. And when you do, any fortress, enemy course, or tank, and ship levels you've already cleared stay completed. Even locked doors remain unlocked, and you'll keep all of your stored items. The inventory system was a big deal back then, giving players some real control between stages. Each completed stage moves you forward through the map and closer to the next world. Every world ends with a boss battle. The first 7 feature airships controlled by one of the Koopalings, and the 8th pits you against Bowser himself in his castle. Along the way, you'll spot icons like large boulders and locked doors blocking your path, plus minigames and bonus screens that can reward you extra power-ups and lives. Any item you earn from these can be stored for later and activated right from the map screen. Beyond the returning items like the Super Mushroom, Superstar, and Fire Flower, the game expanded Mario's wardrobe of suits in a huge way. The Super Leaf and the Tanuki suit transform Mario into a raccoon or a tanuki, letting him fly for a short time. The Tanuki suit even allows Mario to become Statue Mario, briefly turning him to stone to avoid enemies. If you change into the statue mid-jump, Mario performs a ground-pound style attack that crushes enemies below, making the first appearance of this move in the entire Mario series. That's right, the famous ground pound started here. The frog suit increases swimming speed and jumping power on land, while the hammer suit transforms Mario into a hammer bro, letting him throw hammers and even resist fire when crouched. And yes, Super Mario Bros. 3 also supports two-player gameplay, where Mario and Luigi take turns moving around the overworld and playing stages. In this mode, players can even enter minigames, including a remake of the original Mario Bros. Arcade game. Winning or losing can help or hurt your progress by trading cards or losing a turn. Development on Super Mario Bros. 3 began shortly after the 1986 release of Super Mario Bros. 2 for the Famicom Disk System. The project was handled by Nintendo Entertainment Analysis and Development with a team of more than 10 people, and it took over 2 years to complete. The budget ranged between $800,000 and $1.3 million, roughly $2 to $3.5 million when adjusted for inflation. The game's director, Shigeru Miyamoto, worked closely with both designers and programmers from start to finish, encouraging open collaboration and creative freedom. He believed that original and intriguing ideas were the key to making a great game. Originally, the team experimented with an isometric point of view, but it made jumping and movement too difficult to judge. So they switched back to the familiar 2D side view, though you can still see a hint of that early idea, like the checkered floor on the bottom of the screen. All of the game's pixel art was drawn on a Fujitsu FMR50 HD business computers, while HP 64000 mainframe computers were used to write and test code with a 6502 processor card. This was cutting-edge hardware for the time, all just to make the NES do things players hadn't seen before. The team wanted the game to appeal to players of all skill levels. Early worlds featured bonus coins and one-ups to help beginners, while later stages ramped up difficulty for seasoned players. In two-player mode, Mario and Luigi alternated turns to keep gameplay balanced. Miyamoto's team introduced new power-ups and suits to change Mario's appearance and abilities. At one point, Mario was even going to transform into a centaur, but the idea was dropped in favor of the raccoon tail. They let him fly a short distance. Other costumes were added, and stages were designed to highlight each of these new powers. New and returning enemies, including Goombas, Hammer Bros, Koopa Troopas, helped give every level a unique mix of challenges. Some enemy designs came straight from the team's personal experiences. The Chain Chomp, for example, that barking ball and chain enemy, was inspired by a dog that once lunged at Miyamoto when he was young. The Koopalings, meanwhile, were each given distinct looks and personalities based on 7 of Miyamoto's programmers as a tribute to their work. When the game released in the West, Nintendo of America gave them their famous musician-inspired names like Ludwig von Koopa. The character graphics were built using a custom tool called the Character Generator Computer Aided Design System. This tool stored every visual element as numbered shapes, which the game then assembled in real time to create full images on screen. The Super Mario Bros. 3 cartridge also featured Nintendo's custom MMC3 chip, which expanded the NES's capabilities. It enabled animated tiles, extra RAM for diagonal scrolling, and a scanline timer to split the screen. This allowed the top portion to show gameplay, while the bottom displayed a status bar, or on the overworld, an item inventory, all running smoothly together. The soundtrack, once again composed by Koji Kondo, who returned after scoring the previous Mario games. Kondo said this was the most difficult soundtrack he'd ever composed, experimenting with several genres before finalizing the songs we know today. He avoided writing for a specific genre, instead focusing on what fit each level's rhythm and feel. Interestingly, the development team decided the title screen didn't need music at all. During 1988, a shortage of ROM chips, combined with Nintendo's work preparing Super Mario Bros. 2 for release, caused delays in North America's game schedules. That delay included Super Mario Bros. 3 and even Zelda 2: The Adventures of Link. But it turned into a marketing opportunity. In 1989, Universal Studios executive Tom Pollock approached Nintendo of America about creating a video game movie inspired by Nintendo's competitions. Nintendo agreed, licensing its game for the inclusion in what became The Wizard. During production, the filmmakers worked closely with Nintendo to ensure the games were represented accurately. And yes, Super Mario Bros. 3 was the centerpiece of the movie's final video game competition scene. The film released in December of 1989, right between the game's launch in Japan and North America. Finally, Super Mario Bros. 3 had a $25 million marketing budget, bringing its total development and marketing cost to about $25.8 million, roughly $69 million today when adjusted for inflation. That kind of investment showed just how much faith Nintendo had in Mario's biggest adventure yet. When Super Mario Bros. 3 released, the gaming press didn't just like it, they loved it. It was almost universally praised and is still frequently considered one of the best games ever released on the NES. Editors from computer and video games Paul Rand, Tim Boone, and Frank O'Connor gave it a 98% score, celebrating its gameplay, replayability, sound, and graphics. Boone said the game was utterly stupendous and impossible to put down for anything less than a fire alarm. Rand went even further, calling it the Mona Lisa of gaming. And O'Connor said it makes Sonic the Hedgehog look like a wet Sunday morning. In Japan, Famitsu reviewers shared similar praise. They noted how the game borrowed from earlier Mario titles, but still offered incredible diversity and challenge. One reviewer called it the best in the series since the original Super Mario Bros., and it ended up earning Famitsu's second highest score of the year, just behind Dragon Quest III. Another Japanese magazine, Famicom Hisahuban, called it a breakthrough for side-scrolling action games, saying it was full of ideas and designed with precision. They did, however, mention the 6,500 yen price tag and the high difficulty, suggesting it might be tough for casual players. In the UK, Mean Machines reviewer Julian Rignall describes Super Mario Bros. 3 as the finest game I have ever played, praising its addictiveness, depth, and challenge. Another reviewer, Matt Regan, predicted it would become a bestseller, noting how the game tested both the player's brains and reflexes. Nintendo Power also gave it high marks across the board: graphics, audio, challenge, gameplay, and overall enjoyment. It wasn't just about beating the game. Players loved the sense of discovery. Hidden items like warp whistles added to the replayability, giving players the feeling that every level held another secret to uncover. Some critics did mention one weakness. By the time of its European release, Super Mario Bros. 3 looked and sounded dated compared to new titles on the Sega Mega Drive and the Super NES. Those concerns didn't stop it from becoming a record-breaking success. In Japan, it topped Famitsu's sales charts in December of 1988 and January 1989, ranked just behind Dragon Quest III as the second best-selling game of that year. By mid-1989, it had become the second best-selling non-bundled game ever in Japan, and by the end of that year, it was the #1 overall, even outselling Tetris. By 1993, Super Mario Bros. 3 had sold 4 million cartridges in Japan alone. In North America, its early reveal in the movie The Wizard created massive anticipation. When it finally released, Nintendo sold 250,000 copies in just 2 days. It stayed the top-selling game in the US through the spring and summer of 1990, with over 8 million units sold that year. By 1993, the game had sold 11 million unbundled copies across Japan and the US, and by early 1992, it had generated 595 million in US revenue, more than the box office totals of E.T., Batman, and Jurassic Park. Worldwide, it passed 14 million copies by 1995, 15 million by 1988, and 17 million by 2000. Holding the title of the best-selling non-bundled game for years. Even in modern terms, the numbers are staggering. By 2011, Super Mario Bros. 3 had earned the equivalent of $2.4 billion, making it one of the highest-grossing home video games ever. By 2013, it had sold over 18 million copies on the NES, and the Virtual Console version alone sold another 1 million copies. The awards followed the sales. In Famitsu's 1988 Best Hit Game Awards, it won Best Action Game, and a year later was named the Best Action Title since 1983. In the West, Nintendo Power added it to the top 30 Best Games Ever list in 1989. Within months, it climbed into the top 10, and by May of 1990, it hit number 1, staying in the top 20 for over 5 years. Years later, Nintendo Power would still list it among their greatest Nintendo games ever, calling it the title that made Mario's world more complex and introduced many of the series' trademark abilities. And it did not stop there. Outlets around the world have kept honoring Super Mario Bros. 3 for decades. Publications like Games Radar, IGN, Edge, UGO, Game Informer, and US Gamer have all called it one of the best games of all time. Some ranked it the best NES game ever made, while others placed it in their top 10 or top 50 lists of all time. To this day, many consider it the defining Mario game, the one that perfected what the series had started. Super Mario Bros. 3 left an enormous mark on gaming history, and many of its innovations still shape the Mario series today. The game is credited with introducing the overworld map, a feature that became a core part of Mario's identity ever since. The same kind of map later appeared in Super Mario World, Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, and the new Super Mario Bros. Games. It also introduced Mario's ability to fly, which returned in major titles like Super Mario World, Super Mario 64, and Super Mario Galaxy. The Super Leaf, one of the game's standout power-ups, has continued to reappear in more recent Mario games on the Nintendo 3DS, including Super Mario 3D Land, Mario Kart 7, and the new Super Mario Bros. 2. Another detail that first appeared here and stuck ever since was Bowser's red hair. It made its debut in Super Mario Bros. 3 and has been a part of his standard look ever since. Beyond the game itself, the cultural reach of Super Mario Bros. 3 was massive. Through a collaboration between NBC and Nintendo of America, an animated series titled The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3 aired from September to December of 1990. Produced by DiC Entertainment, the show ran as part of the Captain N and The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3 programming block on Saturday mornings, with 26 episodes. It featured the characters, enemies, and settings from the game, and even gave the Koopalings new names and different age order. Music from Super Mario Bros. 3 was later featured in Nintendo's Sound Selection. Koopa, a compilation of Nintendo music and game levels and visuals, were used as themes in Tetris DS for the Nintendo DS in 2006. The Koopalings themselves continued to appear as world bosses in games like Super Mario World, Mario is Missing, Yoshi Safari, Hotel Mario, and across nearly all new Super Mario Bros. Titles. Another returning boss, Boom Boom, reappeared in Super Mario 3D Land and Super Mario 3D World, this time joined by a new boomerang-wielding counterpart named Pom Pom. and both Super Mario Bros. 3 and its distinctive look are represented as themes in Super Mario Maker and Super Mario Maker 2. The game even influenced the creation of PC platformers. In the early 1990s, John Carmack and Tom Hall, who would later found ID Software, developed a PC demo that cloned Super Mario Bros. 3 using their new adaptive tile refresh technology for smooth side-scrolling on EGA cards. They showed the demo to Nintendo, who were impressed but declined to release it, wanting to keep Mario exclusive to Nintendo platforms. That decision led Carmack and Hall to create their own series instead, Commander Keen, heavily inspired by Super Mario Bros. 3. A copy of that early demo resurfaced decades later and was preserved at the Museum of Play in 2021. In April of 1993, Famitsu gave the game a world record for having the most strategy guides ever published, 20 guides in total by that point. Years later, at the 2007 Game Developers Conference, Super Mario Bros. 3 was named one of the 10 most important video games of all time. The list assembled by curator Henry Lowood, along with the designers Warren Spector, Steve Moretsky, and others, was submitted to the Library of Congress for preservation because of the game's cultural and historical significance. They cited its non-linear level design and the way players could move forward and backward within stages as defining traits of modern games. And even decades later, Super Mario Bros. 3 continues to make history. On November 20th of 2020, a sealed copy featuring rare alternate cover art with the word Bros printed on the left side of the box instead of the center sold for $156,000. Setting a record at the time for the most money ever paid for a video game. From its innovations to its cultural footprint, Super Mario Bros. 3 isn't just a classic. It's a foundation that modern platformers are still built on. All right, it's time for some classified information, the kind of stuff that you'd find tucked away in the pages of Nintendo Power. Even after all these years, Super Mario Bros. 3 still hides plenty of secrets that even longtime fans might have missed. First up, the magic pink note block. In World 1-3, jumping on a rare pink block, magic note block, launches Mario into a coin heaven, a secret bonus area packed with coins. It's one of those discoveries that instantly captures the magic of the game's sense of exploration. Next, the muncher trick. If you use the raccoon tail to swipe a muncher, the plant actually transforms into a solid block. It doesn't change much in the level, but it's a fun example of little details Nintendo slipped into the code. Then there's New Game Plus. After beating the game, starting a new game save gives you a full inventory of P-Wings, letting you soar through the stages right from the start. It's a built-in reward for finishing the adventure and a fun way to replay the game from a whole new perspective. Another favorite, the Mythic Treasure Ship. Long thought to be just a rumor, this secret actually exists. If you defeat a Hammer Brother, after finishing a stage with a coin total that's a multiple of 11, and your score's tens digit matches the same number, the Hammer Bro transforms into a treasure ship full of coins. It's one of the most precise and rewarding hidden events in Mario's history. And here's one more subtle detail, alternate dialogue. If you defeat one of the Koopalings while wearing a special suit, the frog suit or the Hammer Brothers suit, the king you rescue at the end will comment differently. It's a small touch, but it shows how much personality Nintendo packed into even the tiniest moments. Finally, a hidden danger with the chain chomps. If you hang around too long in a level with one, about 175 seconds, its chain will actually break and it will come charging after Mario. Now for some gameplay tips. If the airship levels in World 8 feel impossible, remember, you can actually swim underneath them. It's a risky move, but it lets you bypass nearly all the chaos above and safely reach the goal. That's your classified information for today. Secret rooms, hidden ships, alternate dialogue, and clever tricks that prove Super Mario Bros. 3 is still full of surprises decades later. Before we wrap up, I want to grab a couple of comments from the community. First, Nady Nay. So Super Mario 3 is the best Mario game, 3D included, in my opinion. So many memories playing this game with my cousin. You had each overworld that provided so many different themes that it just made the game so unique. the best power-ups and introductions to them, and most useful. Each power-up served a purpose. They also had the best, coolest secrets, from warps, chests, receiving stuff after beating the warships, other secret power-ups like the hammer suit, the inventory system you had before jumping into levels rather than being a backup in the level like Mario World did. The Koopa Kids were introduced. Even though Mario 2 introduced the slot machine bonus between levels, Mario 3 made it great as the special stages along with choosing the 3 chests. My favorite thing is that it was just challenging, which is hard to say nowadays, with Mario World being the start to making it a little easier. Me and my cousin spent so much time having fun, trying to shortcut the game, and then making mini games out of the game like, I bet I can make it to World 8 before you use the flutes and beat King Koopa. I can just gush over Mario 3 forever. And one more from Player One in the Discord says Mario 3 is my all-time favorite game. I remember how much fun I had navigating around the map of each kingdom. Having the different toad houses to get more power-ups was wonderful. The matching game was so frustrating at times. Just when you think you have the icon lined up for 2 of them, the third one messes it up. Ha ha. I can still hear the airship music in my head. The sounds of the cannonballs going off every second cannot be forgotten. Finding the whistles were all the hype. Conversing with all my friends when we found one and telling each other where to find them was such a joy. Favorite power-up would have to be the raccoon leaf, even though it's the most common. That'll do it for today's look at Super Mario Bros. 3, a game that didn't just define the NES, it defined what platformers could be. Thanks for watching, and remember, play it loud.